Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, I am here today with Bag of Dungeon by Gunpowder Studios. This is a small box game, dungeon crawl, a very simple game, but also a pretty good game. I've played it twice now. I've won once and lost once, and I'm really enjoying my time with this game. Now, full disclosure, this game was sent to me by the folks at Gunpowder Studios. I had backed it on Kickstarter, but I backed out at the last moment after it was funded, not because of anything to do with the game, but just because I was having so many Kickstarters backed at that time that I didn't want to have so much money tied up in Kickstarter games. But they contacted me on Board Game Geek and asked me if I would like to review a copy of this game, and I said I sure would, and I'm glad I did. It's a neat little game. The main gist of the game is that you are playing you can play as a solo or in a group, and if you're solo, you can take a party of 1 to 4 heroes into this randomly generated dungeon. So there's a dwarf, an elf, and we have a fighter and a healer. So pretty typical party composition there. And you are building this dungeon with these tiles. And the tiles are quite nice. They're thick, they lay nice together. There's no puzzle fit, so they can slide around a little bit, but it doesn't really matter all that much. But you're going through this dungeon and you're trying to build the entire dungeon. You play until all the pieces are laid out, and this is the end of my last game here that I won. And you have a start tile, which is over here, and you have an end tile over here. On the end tile, when that gets laid down and you find the ring that you're looking for, which is like the main quest, a giant red dragon appears that you have to fight before you can escape and win the game. And as you're exploring the game, there's going to be different tiles, such as these tiles that have a red circle on there, and that's where monsters are going to spawn. And there's a whole bunch of different monsters, and they will spawn on those spaces, and you can move into those spaces to attack them. And then there are also some item spaces, and when you move into those, you can draw an item from the item bag, of which there are a whole bunch of different items. And so you're moving through the maze, trying to navigate the super strong monsters, because some of the monsters are quite strong and you definitely don't want to fight them until you are powered up a little bit or you have some better tactics at your disposal. And then once you lay that final tile, you're going to randomly determine where the ring ends up. And the ring is going to end up on one of those monster spots. And then you can go and you can collect the ring and then take it to the dragon and fight the dragon and win the game. So that's in like the co-op or one-player version solo mode. You can also play this game competitively, where you are, each player is working on their own to defeat the monsters, find the ring, kill the dragon, and get out. So overall, it is a very simple game. If you have something like Sword and Sorcery, which is, I think, one of the more complex dungeon crawls, if you have that at one end of the spectrum, this is on the total other end of the spectrum. Well, maybe not the other end of the spectrum. I would say something like the classic dungeon, like TSR's Dungeon, is at the very, very end of the spectrum. And this is like maybe 1 or 2 steps up from TSR's Dungeon. Now, personally, I would have liked to see just like a couple more layers of complexity to this game. But I think that is something that could be added quite easily in a couple of simple little expansions that either some fans can make or the folks at Gunpowder Studios can make. There is almost nothing to do in the dungeon except move, explore, and fight. You're not really having any kind of non-combat encounters. There are a few traps, but there's really no way that you're either going to spring the trap or you're not. You're going to take damage or you're not. but you're not really meeting other like NPCs or having any kind of like non-combat encounters. But you could easily solve that issue by having even just a little book of like some D10 charts you could roll on at certain circumstances, or even a deck of cards. Now they have added one little expansion in the box, and that is these Dragon Scrolls. Now these change up the game in certain ways, and you have a number of these for competitive games, and then a number for cooperative. And it's these add a little bit of variety, I think, in the way that you play the game, because the base game is pretty much played the same all the time. You're just doing the same thing. This isn't some grand epic adventure game that you're gonna, or campaign game. This is, like I said, it's a very simple tile laying game. However, it really does convey that sense of a dungeon crawl, and it does it in a nice little package that fits in a small box that doesn't take a lot of time or effort to play. So if you guys have been following what I've been talking about this last week or so, right now this game is kind of perfect for like my mental state right now. But these Dragon Scrolls are kind of like little mini quests that just add a wrinkle to some different things that you might come across in the game. They do add like a little bit more of a backstory, or they give you some direction, some narrative direction a little bit in what you need to do. So I would love to see like a whole nother deck of these, like maybe like 30 or so, maybe some that are a little more complex, that maybe have, like one or two branching paths that you might have to follow up on. And that would be super easy to implement, and I think it would go a long way into making this game just that much more appealing to maybe people who are looking for something a little bit more involved but still don't want to play something really complex and heavy. The characters themselves, each of the characters has a different number of health points that they will keep track of, and each character also has a different combat value. So like the elf is 2d6 plus 1, the dwarf is 2d6 plus 3. The elf has 6 action points, the dwarf has 4 action points. The two characters I was playing as, the fighter and the healer, they're kind of like right in the middle. Each one of them has 5 action points. The fighter, his combat is 2d6 plus 2. The healer's is 2d6, but she can heal. He gets another special bonus with if he has a sword equipped. However, even though I won this particular game here, I never once found a sword. So that was kind of a bummer, because I never really got to use his power. But there are a number of different items, and I was kind of impressed with how many different items there are. You have spells such as like Magic Vine. You can find like bombs, like grenades, and there are fireballs. And the cool thing about this game is like you can actually put these little tiles on, and you can equip these in the spots that they're supposed to be equipped in. So that takes 2 hands, so you wouldn't be able to have something there on that hand. It's a large steel axe, and then there are there's a Witch's Claw, which is like some kind of magic spell. There is armor that you can equip on there. There are boots that you can equip. So I really do like these character sheets, and I like the fact that the items just stay right on the character sheet and they slot in. These are like items that don't need a slot, and those are usually like potions or something like that. So I like that a lot. It's a very simple design, but it's effective, and it gives you the feeling of like building a character a little bit. Now there are really no stats, so you wouldn't really be able to implement any kind of stat checks, but you could easily give like, you could say like, well, the elf, and like if you were to add a layer of complexity, like a trap deck or something, you could say that the elf gets a bonus to disarming traps or something, or the dwarf, when he explores, maybe he can draw 2 tiles and pick 1 or something like that. You could easily, if you just wanted to house rule this game to add a little bit of complexity, you easily could. But I do think that the game is fun enough that you don't really need that complexity. It just might be nice if it was an option. But there are quite a few different weapons, like I said. And sometimes when you draw an item, you will draw a trap. And there's really no way, at least what I can tell so far, there is no way to mitigate that trap damage. So that would be one thing that I would like to see, is maybe a chance to overcome that trap damage. And then there also are a bunch of monsters. Now the monsters can be pretty difficult. They range from, let's see here, we have a, what is that? A mummy. So mummy will have 7 health, and its combat value is going to be 1d6 plus 4. The way you do combat is quite simple. You roll the dice. So like my hero, my fighter would roll 2 dice and add 2. All right, so there's 7, 9. He rolls 1d6 and adds 4, so that's 6. The difference of the two, whoever scores higher wins the combat, and the difference of the 2 results is how much damage is dealt to the loser. And all of the damage, you keep track of the damage when you're fighting a monster on your hero card. And if the monster has 6 to 9 health points, when they are defeated, you get to draw an item. If they have 10 or more health points when they're defeated, you get to draw 2 items. So there is an incentive to fight the monsters, because that really is the main way that you're going to be getting items. There are only 2 spaces that you will discover in the dungeon that allow you to draw items. So really your only way of like beefing up your characters is to fight the monsters. But some of them are quite ruthless. So like this guy I never fought, he had a health of 15. He does 2 dice plus 7. And then also in a range of 4 tiles, any other hero takes half damage. I did not find a single item that would have allowed me to take on this guy. Very difficult. And some of the others, let's see, like this is a monk, 2d6 plus 4. So there is a wide range. I happened to draw a lot of enemies on this particular game that I was not prepared to fight. So I really had to like scout around and hopefully I could find a pathway to the exit. And I was praying that the ring wouldn't end up on the space where there was some really strong monster where I just would have no chance of winning. So there is a luck of the draw, there is dice rolling, there is a lot of luck in this game. But there also are some strategic choices, some tactical choices that you need to make about how you're going to explore and whether and when you're going to use your items. But it's not a brain burning game. This is a simple game. And I think that its simplicity is one of the things that makes it a good game. Because you can get it out, you can set it up, you can have an entire little adventure in, about 30 minutes, I want to say. Like they say at about 60 minutes. I don't know. I think I played my second game faster than 60 minutes. Maybe that's with other players. So solo, you can get through a solo game of this really quickly and have a lot of fun. It's not a huge time commitment. It's almost, what would be a really good pairing with this game? This and Escape the Dark Castle would be a super fun night of light fantasy adventure, dungeon crawling, and that would be, I think I'm gonna while we're quarantined here, play those 2 games with my wife. I think she would have a lot of fun because these games they appeal to people who just want to have a fun time, and you don't have to rack your brain reading through 40 pages of rules. I mean, the rules here are very simple. You can read through them in about 10 minutes, and There was a couple questions I had. I need to check their FAQ. For instance, I think it was like the radius, like some of the weapons that have like a radius. So like this bomb here, it's a 2 tile radius. I wasn't sure if it was like 1, 2, or if it was 1, 2. So I'm not quite sure if that counts as the 1 and then a 2, or if it goes out 1, 2. A couple little things like that I think I need to look up. I'm not sure if that was in the rules or not, or if that's on their FAQ or something on their website. But I think they are going to continue to design more for this game, and I really hope they do. I think it's a fantastic base. It's a great foundation upon which they could easily add little modular expansions. So if people want to add just a couple little layers of complexity, they could with a simple deck of cards, 10 or 20 cards, you could make an expansion and sell that, and people could add to their game of Bag of Dungeon, and I think that would be pretty fantastic. So that's it. I just wanted to do a quick little review of this game. It's a game I'm definitely going to play more of, and I had a lot of fun playing both times. So all right, guys, we will talk to you later, and take it easy. Bye-bye.